should I choose a digital or an analog DAS?
Okay.
What do you think about
Yeah, I
this?
think that's a good question. Every time when I meet customers, they will tell me, everybody is using digital. Why is PROSE using analog? Right?
Correct.
So of course, there are customers' perception is digital is the modern technology. Analog is the old-fashioned technology. Yeah, in many cases it is true, but why do PROSE choose an analog technology for 5G, particularly for the low power solution? Now, first of all, we have to understand that in digital, right, or rather in the real world, everything is analog, right? So you start with the analog signal, you go through a analog to digital converter to convert to digital, you have a digital processing board, and finally you transmit on digital through the fiber optic link. And at the receiving end, you are doing the reverse. You take the digital bits that's being received, you convert, you do the processing, and then you convert from digital to analog back to the original analog world. So what's the problem with doing all this processing? Is that when we convert an analog to digital, right, due to what we call the quantization error, right, the quality of the RF signal at the other end is actually poorer than the original signal. Because when we digitize the signal, some information is lost, right? So therefore, what we're getting an analog signal at the other end is lower quality, right? And therefore, in 4G, it was not a big problem because we had modulation technologies that is maybe 64 QAM modulation, but in 4.5G or 5G, we're talking about 256 QAM modulation. And in 256 QAM modulation, in order for you to deliver the throughput that you need, your RF signal has to be in a very good quality, RF quality, and we use a metric called error vector magnitude, EVM, to quantify the quality of the RF signal. So the problem with digital DAS is after you do all this processing, converting back to analog, the EVM actually degrades, right? And what that means is now when the mobile connects to the remote unit of a digital DAS, you will not be able to deliver the full capacity, the full speed as compared to the original base station signal. So this is a problem with digital DAS. Because of all this extra processing, right, you actually degrades the RF quality. That's the first thing. Now the second thing is bandwidth. Now as we know, in 5G, particularly in the N78 or N77 or N79 bands, we're talking about 100 megahertz carrier bandwidth per operator, and typically we need to support up to about 4 operators, so that means 400 megahertz. Now if you're going to deploy 4x4 MIMO, that will be 400 megahertz times 4, 1600 megahertz of RF signal. You cannot digitize such a large bandwidth signal without using a very expensive SFP, right? That means you're going to transmit, usually we talk about 10 gigabits per second SFP, that will not work. Even 25 gigabits per second SFP will not be fast enough for 1600 megahertz of RF bandwidth. Even 40 gigabit SFP will not be possible. So when we talk about digital DAS, bandwidth is a problem, right? In 5G, we're talking about large bandwidth, right? So this becomes a problem. You will not be able to support 4 operators, 4x4 MIMO, right, on 25 gigahertz SFP. And for our active DAS, with the 12 channel, we're talking about supporting 2 bands of 5G on 4x4. So let's consider band 41 on band 78, right? So band 78, you have 1600 megahertz. Band 41, you have almost 200 megahertz times 4, 800. So that means a total bandwidth of 2400 megahertz of RF signal, plus 2 more bands of LTE. So about 2.6 gigahertz of RF bandwidth, right? And that will be impossible for digital DAS.
So PROSE Active DAS is an analog system, correct?
Yes.
Do we have any plan to release a digital DAS in the future?
We might consider, but then as of now, we look at the value proposition for the customer, right? The analog DAS clearly can deliver much larger bandwidth at a lower cost with better performance in terms of EVM and also in terms of heat dissipation, right? The digital DAS has a lot of digital processing that consumes lots of power, so that makes the remote unit very hot and maybe you need to install a fan in the remote unit, which is bad in terms of long-term performance, right? And of course, the delay, the latency will be longer for digital dust. So because of all these 4 points, PROSE has decided that analog is the most cost-effective way, the best performance, and the best value for the customer to deliver multi-band 5G plus 4G in an active dust system.